Oh, the legacy of the Manson family continues because a California panel is now recommending parole for one of the youngest members of that notorious crime family headed by Charles Manson. Leslie Van Houten was only 19 years old when she admitted stabbing Rosemary LaBianca to death at least 14 times when the Manson family members broke into the LaBianca home and murdered her and her husband. The night after they killed actress Sharon Tate and the others in that other notorious break-in. Van Houten now has been behind bars for 47 years. That's her today. They call her a model prisoner. She earned a bachelor's and master's degree behind bars and has been running self-help programs for the prisoners. But the panel approval must pass muster with California Governor Jerry Brown. He will have the final say on whether she will be released should she get out. We're joined by our legal panel now, David Bruno, Robert Schalk here in New York, both are defense attorneys and former prosecutors. So, Robert, she's turned down 19 times, and the 20th is the charm. Why suddenly now?
Well, again, the division of parole serves a very unique and important purpose in the criminal justice system. They obviously review every case to determine whether people will be released, whether they've been rehabilitated. Ms. Van Houten's been in jail 47 years. She was so young at the time of these crimes. She had admitted she was under hallucinogenic drugs. She was under the brainwashing of Charles Manson. And if you look at what she's done on the inside, and you have to look, she's graduated college. She got a master's degree. She's renounced any relationship to him. She's apologized to the victim. She's been a model prisoner, and that's what the parole board looks for, and she meets the criteria for release. In my opinion, you cannot hold her inside merely because it's a famous case. And I feel like she's getting that type of treatment just because she's associated.
Well, let's put the famous case aside for a second, David. A horrible murder. Stabbed the woman 14 times in the back. They apparently took the blood and, scrawled it on the wall, just like in the Sharon Tate house. Does that deserve being released?
Well, listen, this decision is not final because there are two additional steps. There's a legal panel that has to decide as well, and then if they also agree, then it goes up to the governor. And the governor has recently made a decision on this. It's Bruce Davis earlier in this year. 3 times it's gotten to the governor, and he has rejected. And he talks in his report in the past about those facts that you just bring up. They're relevant. It's not just what she's done inside, it's also what's happened, the crime, and other factors that have to be taken into consideration.
Let me read something from Corey LaBianca. She is the daughter of Lino, who was murdered, and the stepdaughter of Rosemary LaBianca, and she said this in a very brief statement to the Los Angeles Times. I very much disagree with the ruling. We all need to be held responsible for our behavior. The least we can do for someone who commits a crime against another human being is to keep them in jail. It doesn't end. This doesn't end. I mean, Bob, people say, yes, there's rehabilitation.
Right.
You can be a model prisoner. You can do all the great good things behind bars, and you could become a different person. At what point does society say, okay, you've murdered, you get a life sentence, but now you can go free? I mean, how do we weigh this? And is it fair? Is it fair to the victims and the victims' families?
It is the fairest process. It's the same process you go through with a trial where you hear evidence from both sides and a jury makes a determination. This is an unbiased board of parole, the parole board, who hears everything. They have an opportunity. The victim's family has an opportunity to submit information. The incarcerated individual's family has an opportunity to submit information with their lawyers. And then they hear testimony like it was a hearing in a courtroom. And they heard what they needed to hear to recommend this. And David makes a great point. This is not final. There's still 2 more steps she has to get over, and there is precedent.
What do you think is going to happen?
She's not getting out. In my opinion, I think the governor is going to reject this recommendation. Just a couple points to make. Number one, when she was first found guilty, it was a death sentence. That sentence was actually commuted to life. She had her case reversed. Right. She had 2 additional trials, and finally she was sentenced to life. But also, these types of decisions happens every day in the prosecutor's office. There are murder cases, and prosecutors, even before we get to parole, have to make decisions on plea offers and whether or not someone's going to get life or even something lesser. And that happens too, 30, 10, 15 sometimes. So there are times when people are getting out more earlier than life sentences.
Finally, you don't think she's getting out, Robert? What do you think?
I don't think she's getting out because the governor has already ruled against one of her cohorts that he's not getting out, and for the same thing, and he was recommended by parole.
Okay, David and Robert are out of time. Thank you. See what happens, and we will be right back.